Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna do a curated list of my favorite indie fall movies to get you into the autumnal spirit, the fall spirit, and yeah, they're giving Brooklyn 2012. They're giving what Lena Dunham's character in Girls Hannah Horvath would be watching and then tweet about. A little bit indie, a little bit alternative, but also they're gonna have like a cozy vibe that just perfectly gets you in the autumn and fall spirit. So yeah, let's get started. The first film that I want to talk to you about is Paula Alto, directed by Gia Coppola, based on a book by James Franco. Now, this book and the subsequent movie lived in the Tumblr Hall of Fame. Like, you had to be there to understand, guys. You had to be in the moment to understand. But girls were taking photos of the book, just like holding it on their bed, posting it on Tumblr, and it would be racking up the notes. They were taking screenshots from the movie, they were taking quotes, they were adding the soundtrack to the autoplay on their blog. And I actually remember, like, when I was 15, during like Tumblr era, I borrowed a copy of this book by James Franco from my friend Tiffany to read. It was not bad. It was not bad. I am also a little bit sick right now, so if my voice starts getting a little weird halfway through the video, that's why. So this is a movie about the lives of these teenagers coming of age, living in Palo Alto. There are some movies I think that you watch for a vibe. Not because it has the most riveting plot or like the most engaging story, but it accurately captures a feeling. And the act of watching the movie feels like an experience. This is one of those movies. It captures perfectly that feeling of fleeting adolescence. I feel like this film and the way it's presented and the stories within it really kind of echo that feeling of being lost, especially when you're a late teen. I would say it's a very specific feeling of idleness, which is, I believe, reflected just beautifully in the overall tone of the film too. It's very like slow kind of moving and the stories fade into each other. Okay, I want to interject this with a quick review of the book itself. Now, I don't mind the book, actually. For the most part, I liked it. You know, it had this written from the perspective of different characters, but the narrative voice all sounded like the same person. There was no difference in personality between them. Each character sounds the same, also adds to that kind of monotonal energy that youth is giving, where almost every day sounds the same. You're just fading into it. You're feeling very lost. This film doesn't have anything crazy plot-wise. I think it captures teendom really well, and the moments of climax that are there, I think, are quite powerful. Like, for example, one of my favorite moments is when the character April is in the car. If you've watched it, you know. I think it's so simple, but it's so beautiful. One of my favorite characters in this film is the character played by Nat Wolff. I think he was an incredibly compelling character, and he had the most interesting arc and he had the most depth to him. I almost wish we spent more time with him because I felt like he was such an interesting person despite not being a good guy. Another thing I really like about this film is I love the way it looks, the palette. It is very reminiscent of Virgin Suicides, I think. Runs in the Coppola family to have beautiful color grading in all of their films. It also has the most amazing soundtrack, with my favorite song being April's Daydream. You guys need to check it out. Please listen. It's so good. I think the worst thing about this film and this project is that April's Daydream is only 2 minutes and not 8 minutes like it deserves to be. Okay, my next indie autumn film list that I would recommend is the movie Submarine by Richard Ayoade. This is another film that I have taken, that I'm reading to you from the Tumblr Hall of Fame transcripts. Sometimes when I'm recording or like researching my YouTube videos, I feel like the old town hag or like the old like witch, and I'm digging out like old ancient social media texts to share with you. I'm like blowing off the dust off the testament blocks, and I'm reading them out to everyone. If you were in Tumblr back in the day, you will remember Submarine. It was like the heavy hitter for a minute. It was an incredibly popular film to be reblogged. Not only the film, but the score too. And it's a very good film. It's very watchable. Submarine is like this like indie quirky comedy drama released in 2015. I think that it is supposed to be set in the 1970s, but I do think that the film has a very timeless quality to it. And personally, I prefer films that don't have like iPhones. I like films that aren't particularly modern. This film focuses on a very specific teenager, Oliver Tate, as he navigates his teendom, his adolescence, his time with his girlfriend Jordana, and him kind of experiencing the gradual dissolution of his parents' marriage. I think this is a very sentimental film, and it has some really, really beautiful moments, and it has some gorgeous Super 8 camera montages. You know, I am someone who is a real sucker for a melodramatic montage on a Super 8 camera. It really gets me going. That Paris, Texas Super 8 moment, that always makes me cry. You know, I love a little melodramatic montage. I do. It's the Hong Konger in me. This film also has this very distinctive color palette. It's very warm and vintage and has this like beautiful sepia film aesthetic. The lead characters of Oliver and Jordana also have these winter overcoats that are kind of in their signature colors of navy blue and red, and they perfectly complement each other, and it's just this perfect thematic color story throughout the whole film, even in the posters, which I really like. It's a very witty film, and it's very charming. It's very creative. It sometimes presents certain aspects of the story not in a traditional way. There's something very quirky about it. I think it has a lot of Wes Anderson influences in this sense. There's something about it that reminds me a little bit of the Royal Tenenbaums, but also Moonrise Kingdom, just in the way that actions are shown on screen. And there's a real charm, and I think there's a real confidence in this film. And I don't know why Richard Ayoade has stopped making movies. Like, he's basically, after this, like, and he did like one other movie with Jesse Eisenberg, but then it's like, it's been crickets, and I'm like, sir, like, we need you to get back to the studio. We need to get back to the studio. We need the Edgar Wright treatment with Richard. We do. Now, it would be problematic. It would be remiss of me not to mention this movie's soundtrack, which is created by Alex Turner, the lead singer of Arctic Monkeys. Stuck on a Puzzle has been stuck in my head for the last few days. Now, I think that this movie came out at just the perfect time because it emerged during the height of Tumblr, when Arctic Monkeys was basically like Tumblr royalty. So girls online really ate it up. Literally, people would be reblogging the soundtrack on their blogs, which I did too. Stuck on the Puzzle is the standout, but I would say the entire all of the music is beautiful, and you should definitely listen, check it out. And I don't know if you know this, a little bit of lore, but Richard Ayoade actually directed the music video for a previous music video for Alex Turner. I think it's like the one where he's like, you was close enough to go, da 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 da. What is it called? Cornerstone. Richard Ayoade directed the music video for Arctic Monkeys' Cornerstone back in the day, which is beautiful. In conclusion, it's a very charming movie. It's also very watchable. I don't think anyone would dislike Submarine because it is just so sweet and charming. We have 4 films today, so we are on our 3rd film. Our 3rd film is actually one of my all-time favorites, and I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. This is The Squid and the Whale by Noah Baumbach. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is a comedy drama about a family going through a divorce and their 2 sons and how they cope with it. This film is like quintessential New York media. It has this beautiful like sepia tone. It's the perfect East Coast Brooklyn When Harry Met Sally type shift. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. The style of the movie also in some ways is reminiscent of the earlier kind of Wes Anderson dramas, specifically Royal Tenenbaums. It has that kind of quirkiness and that humor. And actually, when I was looking this film up, the film was actually produced by Wes Anderson and made, I would say, like, when was it released? Squid and the Whale was also released in 2005. So it was kind of like during that kind of peak 2000s indie boom with like Lost in Translation, all of that. The most gripping part of this film, it's a comedy drama about like family relationships, but it's very watchable. It's very watchable and it's very funny. The most compelling part of the film is the relationships between the family members. Like every single character is so well developed and has so much depth and is so watchable in that they're so interesting, but they're also kind of assholes in a way, but they're really, really well written. They're perfectly well written, and you just really understand the type of character that each person is. You understand the type of person that they are. I think the key relationships in this film are between the older son, Jesse Eisenberg. He's kind of like the central character, and how he relates to his father, who is like this kind of washed up, insecure writer, and how he relates to his mother, who is kind of like an up and coming writer. The dad character is amazing, but I really want to say that like the mother character is so complex. Like, as a girl with a Chinese mom, and also from like a Chinese family, like, I'm gonna keep it real. It's rare for films with like a Western family dynamic to be truly relatable to me. Like, I don't know if this is just me, like, you know, does anyone else kind of know what I mean? Like, I think that was also one of the reasons why I wasn't like fully clicking with Lady Bird, because I didn't click with Lady Bird, and I didn't even click with Everything Everywhere All at Once, because I was just like, wow, like my mom would never be like this. Or like I would be like, wow, like my issues are totally different. And while I'm here, I think that Everything Everywhere All at Once is so overrated. That's a topic for another time. But yeah, like all of this to say is like, you know, sometimes I don't relate to films, like Western films about family dramas. But Squid and the Whale really spoke to me. You know what I think it is? I think it's because there is so much in Squid and the Whale that is unspoken. Now, I don't know if I have any Baumbach bros in the audience, anyone who's a fan of Noah Baumbach. I low-key am a bit of a Baumbach bro, so I want to talk a little bit about like the film's lore and what I find interesting, because I think that this is a very personal film to him, and in my opinion, I think it's his best film. And I've watched like kind of a few Baumbach movies. I watched Marriage Story 2. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. You know, that was not one of my favorites. I have always believed in the quote, the most personal is the most creative. And I feel like the reason why this film works so well by Noah Baumbach is because I believe that it's very personal to the filmmaker, because the character of the father is largely based on his own father, who was this famous avant-garde author. And I feel like you can kind of tell that this must be quite similar to what his dad might have been like, because this style of a character reappears throughout Noah Baumbach's work. So in the Meyerowitz stories, which is Noah Baumbach's 2015 film, the dad character played by Dustin Hoffman is like the exact same guy essentially as the Jeff Daniels dad in Squid and the Whale. So it's kind of like that must be very based on some element of truth. I find that very interesting. And I also feel like it's interesting to watch Noah Baumbach's Squid and the Whale and the Meyerowitz stories and kind of understand a little bit about, I guess, the filmmaker. The last fall film I want to recommend to you is My Own Private Idaho, starring Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix. Now, this is a film by Gus Van Sant, who I would actually argue is like the fall movie king. He's the fall movie pioneer. Like, there are so many of his other films that I actually thought about putting as the final selection for this video, like Good Will Hunting, or Paranoid Park. I thought about putting Paranoid Park as well, but I decided to settle on My Own Private Idaho. And I think the reason I landed on this film is because I've been personally very inspired by My Own Private Idaho. Like, for the last few projects that I've done, I have kind of referenced the film, or like it inspired a lot of the projects that I've done. So it's been on my mind a little bit more, and I wanted to kind of give it the space it deserves and the recognition it deserves on my channel. So My Own Private Idaho is about the life and friendship of these two male hustlers. One of them has narcolepsy, where he kind of falls asleep spontaneously. That's River Phoenix. And then the other one is Keanu Reeves, the mayor's son, who kind of is just choosing the male hustler lifestyle as a way to rebel against his dad and his privilege. And they strike up a friendship. These two characters are played by real life friends, Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix. And I almost feel like that understanding of their real life friendship adds to what you can take away from the emotions of this film. I feel like sometimes when you're watching a movie, like, a movie doesn't just exist within the confines of the universe of the film. It exists in the world that we're all living in, and there's so much that is additional context that can enhance the film's experience or take away from it, I believe. I think that this film has a very hypnotic and magnetic energy to it. It's very warm. It's very enchanting. Like, even from the opening scenes, it's like it's lulling you to sleep. And I think that is intentional because it calls back to that theme of narcolepsy, where it feels just, it has this dreamy and tranquil vibe. The atmosphere, that dreamy atmosphere that Gus Van Sant cultivates, owes a large part to the beautiful score in this film. I've talked about the score 3 times in this video. I keep talking about the score, but honestly, the score is important. It's true. The score for My Own Private Idaho is by Bill Stafford, who's like this legendary pedal steel guitarist. Like, so I became obsessed with this film's score, and it actually inspired me across so many of my own works. Like, for example, my latest single, Wild Horse, has a pedal steel guitar, which I think I only kind of was really like wanting a hook like that because I was listening to Bill Stafford's score for this film for so long. I was also listening to this soundtrack when I started writing my own short film, so that moody kind of atmosphere that the score had was a huge inspiration for me. I became genuinely obsessed. I became so obsessed with the soundtrack that I actually like found the musician of My Own Private Idaho, and I messaged him on Facebook just to tell him like how much his soundtrack and his music like inspired me and how much it meant to me. He didn't respond, but you know, sometimes it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about putting yourself out there. All of that is to say that like I love a steel guitar, inspired my latest song, inspired a lot of script writing in my short film, so I love the soundtrack of this movie. Another part of the film that I really loved was the fireside chat between River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves. And a little bit of film lore, this specific scene was written by River Phoenix. And I would say that this moment was also a huge inspiration for me when I was writing my own screenplay. Like, I downloaded the screenplay for this film and I would like read it and I would like learn about the lore. But that is how I knew that, like, because I was really into this film, that's how I knew that River Phoenix had actually written the fireside chat. I think that this is a wonderful film. It has this really beautiful hypnotizing warm glow that is very inviting. It's very beautiful. It is soothing, and there's something that is quite tragic, and you feel this sense of loss. And also, I actually think My Own Private Idaho was in the Tumblr Hall of Fame too. It was. I remember reblogging the photo of them on the motorcycle when I was younger. It's true. We only covered Tumblr Hall of Fame films today. Okay, those are my selections for my favorite cozy indie autumn films. I hope you enjoyed my film list. I hope you watched them. If you've already seen them, tell me what you think, and tell me what is your go-to film that you like to watch in the fall. I hope I stop being sick so I can record more videos. And yeah, also, can we have a moment to talk about this makeup? Like, holy shit. So that is the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Here are my social medias. You absolutely must be following me if you want to be a baddie. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.